I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 18th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Lighter run of about 4,500 head here to start the week for the regular feeder cattle auction. Just going to be lighter runs everywhere, and we've already started seeing that. It's getting that time of the year, and we're just pretty much out of available cattle. But be checking some dates on some special sales coming up early next month at Joplin. May the 4th, going to have a special cow and bull sale. That starts in the afternoon after their weigh-up sale, but at 4:30 in the afternoon, that sale will be starting. You guys that are in dry spots, not that far west of there, you may want to consider, taking some cattle if you've got replacement cattle to sell towards Joplin, because they have had rain and they've got green grass over there in that part of the country. How about Primetime Livestock Video? The video sale through Joplin Regional Stockyards will be having a special on May the 5th, that Thursday. But for everything Joplin Stockyards, just visit joplinstockyards.com. Managing prosperity, and that's probably the hardest thing that the fed cattle industry has to do. Then they're the worst at it, is trying to manage their prosperity. We gained significant ground last week, especially in the northern plains, where our market-ready supplies are the lightest, and we've got the best cattle up there. But we were fully $1 higher in the southern plains, and that's saying something right there. But gained significant ground on your weighted averages, and I'll give you that in just a minute when I get to the fed cattle market. But we've got a small window here to gain some more market position. Might could get them up to $1.50 on the top side on a live basis before we get into those heavier runs of market-ready cattle that are definitely going to pressure the market. But we've got a small window here, and your packers are really wanting to crank up your slaughter. We had a decent slaughter this past week, even though it was Easter holiday and Good Friday. So, if they can manage that during a holiday week where everybody's wanting off on that weekend, they can crank this up pretty good like they did the week before that. So we'll see here. We've got to manage prosperity the way that the packers manage the supplies. They're masters at it. The cattle industry is not very good at managing their prosperity, but we've got lighter runs of feeder cattle everywhere. There's not a whole lot of demand for cattle going right into the feedlot because the cost of gains are so big, but there's not a lot of them right now either. So when this thing does turn around, when we get on the other side of those heavier numbers of market-ready cattle, this thing could take off. And guys don't want to be without cattle if they do that. But the pens are full right now. There's not a lot of empty pens to be had, but feeder cattle held their own pretty much this past week. Calves were lower because we've lost a lot of that demand. Turnout dates have passed now for your big areas of grazing in the Flint Hills, the Osage, on those double stock pastures. They'll get 90 days out there. So they turned out on April the 15th. Most everybody turned out there now, and you can just literally watch those cattle explode as they get out there, and they have burned most of those pastures off, and they have had some moisture on the east side there of Kansas, so they should be in pretty good shape there. Talking about our weather conditions, our friends up in the northern plains, boy, they had a miserable time of it last week in eastern Montana and North Dakota and places like that, suffering through a terrible drought, and then to get some moisture, and it was a wet snow in most places, but my gosh, some places, over 20 inches of snow, and some places more than that, and got newborn baby calves on the ground, and it was a tough struggle for them. I talked to some of them and saw a lot of it on social media and things, but it should start warming up there now, and they'll be glad that they got the moisture. And shouldn't be too much of a calf killer there. Those guys had plenty of notice, and they take pretty good care of their stock. Now it's going to be wet all week this week in the southeast. They really don't need it. They've had plenty of moisture. We sure could use it in the central part of the U.S. Did get some good moisture just the last few days way out west on the coast there in California. So they had some moisture early, got excited about it, dried back up, but now they had a pretty good soaker here over this last weekend. But we got two big hearings coming up next week, not this week, but next week, on the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. We got the Senate Ag Committee hearing, and they'll be visiting about it, and that should be a good one. It may not be as much fireworks as what we saw on the first one that we saw with Justin Tupper there hitting the ball into the outfield and up into the lights. But we should have a good one there. And then the House of Representatives is expecting a better hearing. They have give invitations out to the big four packers to come in and explain themselves, if they would like to, on how everybody's suffering through inflation. Everything's higher. Cattle market has not really been where guys can make any money doing that, yet they're experiencing all-time record profits. So that should be interesting on how they do that and how they want to resist this bill that we need so badly. But be looking forward to that here next week. Talk to you guys about high cattle prices all the time, and I know numbers are short around, but my buddy down there in Central Texas, Ellison Carter Cattle Company, and I peek in with him periodically to see what you could order some cattle for. You know, guys, you may have a little patch of grass, or maybe a big patch of grass, or maybe you've got some feed you've got bought up, or you've got some feed stockpiled, and you would like to buy some cattle that pencil out when you buy them, and then you can look forward. You just have to take care of them, keep them alive, and watch them grow. But if you'd like to buy some cattle that might make some money and don't look like you're betting on the come whenever when you first buy them, look at what Ellison Carter Cattle Company could buy for you. These were loads that he bought last week, shipped out over the weekend there. But steers and bulls there, I had a load that averaged 295 pounds at $205, and it'd be pretty good kind. 205 weighing under 3, that sounds pretty cheap. How about a load weighing 355 at 193 1/4? Said they'd be all black and pretty good, pretty fancy kind. They had a couple loads of 400 pounders, and they cost 193. They'd be pretty fancy. I'm talking solid colored. A lot of blacks and dark nose Charolais on there. Load weighed 418 at 179 1/4. Pretty fancy load of blacks, averaging 535 at 178.50. How about a load of plainer kind of cattle, weighing 560 pounds on the average at 125. Another load, a little on the plain side, but not quite as bad as the ones I just give you. Average 580 pounds shipping out. And these are delivered prices, guys. Delivered to the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, places like that. So that's delivered prices. If you live further away, of course, it's going to be a little bit more. But this ain't FOB. These are delivered prices. 580 pounders at 132. And then a load of big yearlings weighed 910 pounds at $135. Be all yearlings. How about the heifers? Load weighed 355 at 160. Load of blacks weighing 420 at 159 1/4. Some plainer heifer calves averaging 550 at 139.50. Some really fancy all blacks. He said good enough to keep. Depending on what part of the world you're in, average 555 at 150 1/2. Some 700 pound pretty fancy kind of yearlings. Heifers bring 140 1/4. Delivered prices, guys. And a load of big heifers, all yearlings, averaging 920 at 119.50. Now let's talk about your board for last week. April live cattle futures. Monday was up 70 cents. Tuesday was up $1.42. Wednesday was up 67, and Thursday up a nickel. So up every day of the week. Not big gains, and we didn't have any board on Friday for Good Friday, of course, but that's not too bad because we had a tough go of it the week before that. But 140.67 to end the trading for the week was $2.85 higher than the end of the previous week. June contracts were up 260 for the week at 136.42. Talk about April feeder cattle. Monday they were up a dime. Tuesday was up $1.10. Wednesday up 80 cents. Thursday off just 35, and that's pretty much in the face of higher grains too, guys. But 158.20 to end the week on April contracts. That was up $1.65. May was up $2.40 for the week at 161.77. Your grains for the week, corn was up 21.5 at 7.90 1/4 to end a regular trading for the week. Man, that's getting pretty close to $8 a bushel. How about beans? Down 6 3/4 cents at 16.82 1/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat was up 47 1/4 at 11.54, and your grains are just going to hinge on what happens over there in the Ukraine on that terrible war they got going on, because you know they make a lot of grain over there and they make a lot of fertilizer. So if things start straightening up over there, your grains are going to go down a little bit. If it continues like it's been going on, it looks like it's going to drag on, then they'll at least hold the levels that we've got right now and the cost of gains that we're fearing, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. How about your fat cattle trade up through Thursday, and that got almost all of it because it was Good Friday, of course, on Friday. But 5 area feeding region negotiated trade, direct basis, 86,900 head. That's pretty good for the way we sell them anymore. Compares to 80,300 the previous week and 65,100 the same week a year ago. Your live sales of steers and heifers ranged from 137.5 to 145 in your on direct basis, 5 area feeding region. That was $1.50 to $2 higher than the previous week. Weighted average on live steers 140.102. That was up $2.25 compared to your weighted average from the previous week. Dress sales 221 to 231. That 231 sounds pretty wild. Steady to $5 higher than the previous week. Weighted average on dress steers 225.87, up 351. Now we knew we had a precursor to that direct market there, because on Tuesday morning at Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota, the best fat cattle auction that we have in this country, really, on Tuesday morning, they sold their steers and heifers from 139 to 149 with some non-implanted and drug-free program type finished cattle up to 154.50. So packers have pretty much tipped their hand that they needed some, and it was all driven by our regional packers, which they're, like I've told you a jillion times, they're the only ones that'll push the market for numbers, because they don't have they don't have all their needs filled, and they'll push the market for quality. They deal in top quality. Didn't have much trade at all on Friday. The only confirmed sales we had on Friday were in Iowa, 400 head. Live price was 143, dress price 226. Box beef cutout values were mixed, with choice higher, select down, widening that choice select spread. Choice weighted average, all of last week's sales, cutouts 270, 248 on your weighted average on all of last week's sales. That was up right at $2. And at the end of the week, your Friday afternoon quote was real close to that weighted average price. So we should continue to go on there. Select struggled a little bit. 259.80 on the weighted average of all of last week's sales. That was down $1.64. And your late week sales were about $1 lower than that weighted average. So, but the choice select spread about $12.68 on your weighted average price there. Slaughter, like I said earlier, pretty good for being, you know, kind of wanting to be closed late in the week due to the holiday. But 634,000 was 37,000 than the big harvest we had the previous week. It was just 7,000 less than the same week a year ago, and that was not with Easter on the same weekend. So nearly the same as a year ago, and getting through the holiday. On Friday we harvested 114,000. That's pretty darn good on Good Friday, and 22,000 on Saturday. So they can do it if they want to, guys. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 155.36. That was just 19 cents a hundredweight higher than the end of the previous week. So like I said, your cattle going right into the feedlot kind of held their own, only because there's not a lot of them. but there's not too many empty pens to go around, but guys don't want to get caught short of them. Let's talk about your Monday sales here to start the week. They're going to be lighter on receipts. Like I told you, Joplin 4,500. OKC was looking at a lighter run too, because a lot of people just didn't want to get cattle up to ship over the religious holiday weekend there. And I hope you guys had a great Easter. I did. Very important and the most holy day of the year. But light receipts, and the market's going to be higher, quite a bit higher on these Monday morning sales, because they were lower last week. Then by midweek on, we had gained a lot of ground, and those Monday sales have not realized that. So your Monday sales are going to be lighter on receipts. Market's going to be higher in your Monday sales. Like I said, last week your cash feeders opened the week steady in your sales, or opened the week lower, excuse me, a week ago on your Monday sales, opened lower. Tuesday was kind of uneven, and the board was so friendly that Wednesday was $2 to $5 higher, and then Thursday sharply higher on feeder cattle. Calves are kind of steady to $5 lower all week long. It's starting to get hotter in parts of the country, and a lot of your guys' orders for turnout calves have already been filled. A lot of them are not weaned, even though you got fall-born calves and you're selling them when people want them. You still got to wean them, guys. Nobody wants to turn a fat baller out whenever it's hot and they're in strange areas and don't know where they're at and missing their mother. So but your Monday sales will be higher for sure. How about some of your top quotes for the end of last week? How about Hill City Livestock Commission in Hill City, Kansas? 70 head, 505-pound steer calves, bring 208. That's pretty darn respectable right there, but they got grazing up in there. How about Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska? 66 head of stockers weighed 622 pounds at 187. And then your I can't even say this word, and I know I used to know it when I lived up in Missouri, but Maquoketa, I believe that's how you say that. Maquoketa, Iowa, is a Maquoketa Livestock Exchange. That's Eastern Iowa, guys. Had the best quote that I saw anywhere late in the week last week. It's your Ralgro top quote for the day. 99 head, 835-pound steers, bring 160, 250. That's your feeder flash for Monday.